A baby cries. Every adult in the room feels it. Not just hears it, feels it. Something in your chest tightens. Your attention narrows. Your body orients toward the sound before your mind has even registered what it is. You did not decide to respond this way. You could not have stopped yourself if you tried. And the reason why reaches back to a chapter of human history so dangerous, so exposed, so relentlessly threatening that the stakes of ignoring a baby's cry were simply too high to leave to chance. The cry of a human infant is, by measurable acoustic standards, one of the most attention-capturing sounds on Earth. This is not an accident. It is the product of millions of years of coevolution between infant signaling and adult response, a system so finely tuned that it operates across cultures, across languages, across any context in which a human adult finds themselves. You do not need to be a parent to feel the pull. You do not need to have met the child. Studies consistently show that the cry of an unfamiliar infant produces measurable physiological responses in adult humans who have no relationship to the child whatsoever. Heart rate changes, cortisol shifts, attentional narrowing. The body is not asking for your permission. It is already responding. The evolutionary biologist Sarah Blaffer Hrdy at the University of California, Davis has spent decades studying the origins of human cooperative caregiving. Her research proposed a model she calls cooperative breeding, the idea that for most of human evolutionary history, infants were not raised solely by their biological parents, but by an extended network of caregivers, grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, unrelated group members, all contributing to the survival of young children. Hrdy argues that this system fundamentally shaped both infant signaling and a date response. In a cooperatively breeding species, a baby's cry does not need to reach only one person. It needs to reach everyone, and everyone needs to feel compelled to act. This is why the cry works on you, even when it has nothing to do with you. You are the product of a lineage in which adults who responded to infant distress signals raised more surviving children than adults who did not. The responsiveness is in you because the ancestors who lacked it left fewer descendants. But here is where it gets stranger. The human infant cry is not a single uniform signal. It is a sophisticated, graded communication system. Researchers have identified distinct acoustic signatures within infant crying that correspond to different underlying states. Hunger cries have a different rhythmic pattern than pain cries. Discomfort cries have a different pitch trajectory than fear cries. These distinctions are subtle enough that adults cannot always consciously identify them, but the body often responds differently before the conscious mind has formed a clear interpretation. A pain cry, with its higher pitch and more irregular rhythm, produces a faster and more urgent adult response than a hunger cry. The nervous system is reading acoustic information it was never formally taught to read. The pediatric researcher Kathleen Wermke at the University of Wurzburg made a discovery in 2009 that quietly overturned a long-held assumption about infant communication. She found that newborn cries are not random noise. They have melody. Specifically, they have the melodic contour of the language the infant heard in the womb. German newborns cry with a falling pitch contour, mirroring the prosodic pattern of German speech. French newborns cry with a rising pitch contour, mirroring the rising intonation characteristic of French. This means the infant is already communicating in the musical shape of its native language before it has uttered a single intelligible word. The cry is not just a distress signal. It is the first draft of language. Why would this matter? Why would an infant's cry carry the acoustic fingerprint of the language it has not yet learned to speak? Because vocal communication between infant and caregiver is not a one-way broadcast. It is a negotiation. And the closer the infant's vocal patterns match those of its caregivers, the more likely those caregivers are to read the infant's signals accurately, respond appropriately, and keep the infant alive through the extraordinarily vulnerable first years of human life. Human infants are born more helpless than the young of virtually any other primate. A newborn chimpanzee can cling to its mother independently within hours of birth. A human newborn cannot hold its own head up for months. This extreme helplessness is a consequence of human brain size, specifically the fact that the human brain grows so rapidly after birth that if it developed to an equivalent stage in the womb, childbirth would be physically impossible. The result is an infant born at a developmental stage that no other primate shares, dependent on caregivers for survival in a way that no other primate infant is. This extraordinary dependency created extraordinary evolutionary pressure on infant signaling. A human infant that could not produce effective distress signals, signals that were compelling enough, specific enough, and acoustically penetrating enough to command adult attention and care, was an infant that did not survive. The cry, as we know it, is the result of that pressure, refined over millions of years into something that bypasses adult rational deliberation and speaks directly to a deeper system. The neuroscientist Morten Kringelbach at Oxford University has studied brain imaging data from adults listening to infant cries. His research found that the cry activates the brain's salience network, the system responsible for flagging stimuli that demand immediate attention faster and more powerfully than almost any other sound. The same network activates for threat signals, for pain, for alarm sounds. The infant cry, in terms of how the adult brain processes it, is functionally categorized alongside emergency signals. Not because the infant is a threat, but because the failure to respond is. Think about what this means for the world you live in. Every alarm system ever designed by humans, every emergency siren, every warning tone operates in a frequency range and with a rhythmic pattern that echoes, however distantly, the acoustic features of infant distress. High-pitched, arrhythmic, impossible to ignore. Engineers did not consciously design these sounds to mimic infant cries, but the sounds that work, the sounds that cut through noise and force attention, naturally converge on the same acoustic territory that millions of years of evolution already carved into the human nervous system. You are not responding to the fire alarm because it is loud. You are responding because something in your nervous system, older than language, older than thought, recognizes the acoustic shape of something that needs you right now. The next time you hear a baby cry and feel that pull, that tightening, that involuntary shift of attention, notice what is actually happening. You are not being inconvenienced. You are being activated. A system built over millions of years of cooperative survival is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is making sure that in a world where a helpless infant's life depends on the attention of every adult within earshot, no adult gets to simply look away. A baby cries, every adult in the room feels it, not because you chose to, because millions of years of human history made absolutely certain that you would.